Alright, back to Ace Attorney. Where were we? Besides the room protected, the 2 security guards, blah blah blah. It was the last one we had to show the stupid handprint, and that's where we were. Because I messed up royally last time. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd that is you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime, and yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the crime scene. Or, to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away, however. A luminol test clearly reveals this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints. Very well. You may begin your testimony about the fingerprints found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in the evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the bloodstained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprints was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprints are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? Murderer was wearing gloves. See? I had nothing to do with it. I don't believe you. The witness explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Like I said, okay, so I knew the answer. I just pushed the wrong button. Or pushed the wrong evidence at him. The bloodstain and the fingerprints are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? I knew he was wearing gloves. I thought I had the... Your Honor. No, you're wrong. I'm dumb. Let me press him a little bit just to make sure. Unrelated. They're as different as night and day. Kind of like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast while the other is a type of murder. He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, though thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected at the handprints. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that means the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hands on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprints? That's the only logical conclusion. I can't let him squirm out of this one. I've got to find something decisive to tie Officer Marshall to the crime. That's because how do you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right, that and one more thing. That locker happened to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. The locker I used when I was a detective, the locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my friends weren't all over that locker. Apparently, his fingerprints data was never removed from that locker programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all the time without even ever knowing it. Okay, so that helps. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture. This seal of blood in the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. Security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Too bad it wasn't me in the video, right, partner? See, I know what I'm trying to push now, but I don't know how to get the outcome I want. Okay, so... But it was you. So maybe it wants me to push the videotape again. So I can show it was him. Nope. I was just kidding. That was not what I wanted to do. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to the crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera is panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in the video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do it so now. Okay, this is what I've been trying to do. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us the incriminating evidence. Okay, so we gotta fast forward. Move it, move it, move it, move it, move it. Meekins comes in. Gets his butt handed to him. This locker's still closed. And pause. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in this video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order, order. Hold your horses. Sorry, partner. But you got it all wrong, man. So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault I happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only one who could have opened that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker, now prove it. A fingerprint scanner? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detective they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't obvious. There are even some people on the force who don't know about the fingerprints locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! Order. Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you, this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Oi! Please answer the question. What, is he now a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Officer Marshall was standing right here. So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there? That's almost as credible as Meekins' warp theory. Your chamber empty, partner. Better reload. Uh-oh. Did I really? Oh my god. Am I gonna have to do all that again? Sad face. Yes, I suck. Would you like to try again? Can I just load? That's okay. At least we know what to do. Too bad the video wasn't me in there. Show evidence. Let's see. I'm just gonna save here just so we don't have to do that again. That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure it out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has the answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Well, not the victim, and it's apparently not the killer. I don't know. Is he right here? Nope. Keep trying. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. What am I missing here? Please tell me, game. Oh. Okay. So it is the victim spot. I guess that makes sense. Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up as Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on the ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it? You're going to have to do better than that to break, detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see that the fear is in your eyes, partner. Seems like you're one who couldn't take the desert's heat. Heck, this can't be happening. It's obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you're running into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in a disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at that time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as the Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well. Let's take yet another look at this stupid tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker, and we're gonna save here in case I'm stupid. To put away a white cloth, please show us why the witness had opened the locker. Oh, right there. Rewind. How do I rewind? For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pull a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that. So you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent as you are now today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it. Alright, it seems the time has came. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole a detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take all the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. And I managed to escape. I know which area wouldn't be caught onto the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. I had to do it the day... When you say it, you mean, do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years ago, years has passed since the case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I had anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of the investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID card, dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Why did you disguise yourself as a Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that's really why Goodman started filling out the lost item form. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprint. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he couldn't be because the rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman might have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him out? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyways, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and I managed to escape. I knew which areas would be caught on camera. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make much of a difference though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. But the blood found at the crime scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim showed on the tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is the evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already emptied. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer you. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine, and I'll do anything it takes to get the answers I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? Why? Tell me. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserves his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murder, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something still that's bothering me. Something went down at the trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why is he so concerned with the incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to the case. I better take another look at this file. And we save. And I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but... Neil Marshall. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident files here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murdered victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murder with Damien Gant, the then deputy chief of police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and he was killed. That was the first time Dark was left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arrogant and incarcerated. The case was finally closed, at least according to the public record. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I know my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case would be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered himself unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At the exact same time the murder at the prosecutor's office, the fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecution office parking lot was the real one? Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There's yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murders at the police department. It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department has been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it in a single word or less. Arg. I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached a conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murderer on the security camera tape really was fake, but I didn't realize that would end up proving Alana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Your Honor, wait. Emma? The defense has an objection, a scientific objection, right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor, in a sense? Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please? I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killing. Now that she mentions it, the name of the both Sky sisters were on the file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew this fingerprints had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So did you find anything? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, with regards to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of much more use, but still, if you can't find anything wrong with this blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If I ever needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? Let me consider it as I save. I object. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at the floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of this blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing on this... Oh, God. No, not my badge. Is it the Blue Badger? What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would have been impossible to place a handprint at the spot of the locker. What? So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on the locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put them there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically, Emma. On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on the locker. So that means this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in. Just one moment, I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my court. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on the tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on the tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your abusive claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found in the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? We'll summarize the defense claim that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in the evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present this evidence that shows when the first crime took place? Okay. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, the ID card would have been used. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminal test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, 7777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7777777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777777777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of the ID card, at least at the present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 77777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a personal ID identification. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge file against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yes? No, not to you, to her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 777777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I wanted to ask. All I want to know is one thing about the incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat the question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for this trial. At that time, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did. Lana, I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look an investigator in that crime in the eye and say you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order, 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 order! Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Drastic crimes require drastic measures. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dark killings. Sounds like everybody heard about the killings but me. Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly that's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean, what happened to you? It's all there in the files. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. But what did you have to do with the killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was the only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trials. I didn't see that one coming. It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of the year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finally finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Jake Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage, but before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then, what happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I could still see it now. A permanent picture. I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall, so you weren't able to testify about that? No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provide bogus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known it. He was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean. It's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have happened. So, it's true, even though he may not have known it, Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold, like she is not today. She must not have been able to face up what she did, especially not to Emma. What did you see in the instant the crime occurred? Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma. You've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago, you must have been 14. That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I wanted to be able to fight crime with my own testimonies and find the evidence to make it an airtight case. That's why Lana would never have to... That way Lana would never have to forge anymore. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at the time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor. Oh, there's no mystery in there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and he fled into my sister's office. Well, why did he run all the way over to your sister's office? Because the detective office and the questioning rooms are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly. Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. She was the best in the entire force. Well, what? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective? I'd better have another talk with her. See here? Lana, Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence? I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul, why should we? But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you used to be a detective 2 years ago? And how the SL9 incident was the reason for you to transfer to the prosecutor's office? That's right. Could you fill me in on the details, especially about the unusual job change? I suppose you have the right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations was uncovered by today's trial, not at least at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial, it really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. You couldn't be helped, Emma. At that trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15 there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana, what the witness, Miss Starr, said about you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. It's true. I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Grant. He was the deputy chief of the police back then, but he still worked the crime scenes. Damien Gant. He was everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before the report could even be filed. Emma really idolized her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes so you could use the experience in court, right? Gant helped in the SL9 case, was critical to the resolution. After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of their 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was second in command of the detective investigation DARK. Second in command? That means the investigation led was Damien Gant, right? Yes, Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office and the same investigations. They even had the same office. We led a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was Jake Marshall and Angel Starr, it was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was a serial killer. We asked him to come into questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That was when his final murder took place. When he tried to murder Emma, Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damien Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. The investigation was in its final stages and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guard down and fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana? It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and the smell of blood. 3 bodies. Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and laid unconscious. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her. Can't blame her after all, her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence, I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident. Just by chance. But that case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall? Yes, his actions come as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he's changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damien Gant and I shared. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself, the chief offices. Maybe we should have a look at the chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder. I don't see Detective Gumshoe anywhere. Things seem kind of quiet around here today. You're right, the chief of the detectives seems the same though. Why don't we go look for some other people to talk to? Right, we can come back here later. Howdy, Bambi. Oh, Mr. Marshall. I never thought that things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Of course, Sierra, you never know where life will lead you, eh, Bambi? I should have known my luck had ran out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecution office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go in the evidence room today, partner. But Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? Why do prosecutors head west? If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was this one. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean, fishy? Something of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean the switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's all right, but in the initial autopsy report, a question was raised. A question? The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there is a good chance that knife was not the murder weapon. However, in the report that was finally submitted, that possibility had been erased. Could the facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left behind a scar on all of us. The scars that the SL9 incident left behind. Dun, dun. I got the look, but he got the brains. He was the one of the best prosecutors around. I had just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together. How old was he, your brother? He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me for like that? That's an honor for a prosecutor. Mr. Marshall must have really been close to his brother. The day of the SL9 incident took place, that wasn't the same day as... That's right. It was the day of the evidence transferal. Interesting. It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. I can't believe 2 years have gone by already. I tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered and the evidence locker was empty. There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. Miss Starr was fired and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? If they did something to him too, the commissioner would get suspicious. No, they were careful enough not to be too obvious. Who are you talking about? Don't get upset, Bambi. I mean Damien Gant and Lana Skye. The investigation led Damien Gant and his second-in-command, Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yes, Damien Gant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She never been the same since she left. Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentioned it, Emma said the same thing. Tell me, what happened to my sister? Sorry, Bambi, but her secret is too well guarded. I never found out. Lana's secret. It all started 2 years ago. So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, partner? It was certainly enlightening. There's one thing for sure I found out in the court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get the guilty verdict, but someone else was the one who gave him the evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damien Gant. Damien Gant. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Too bad I won't be around to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Adios, Bambi. Okay. Can we go back here? This place is always pretty empty, but today it's deserted. That must mean everyone's busy solving crimes. Oh, if you're looking for others, they're all in the conference room. Thanks. Wow, he actually talked to us. With the chief prosecutor saying that she did, and the decisions about what to do about Mr. Edgeworth, not to mention our statement to the media in tomorrow's trial, there's more chaos going on than Thanksgiving and Christmas put together. I think festive is the word you would use for those. Sir, we'd like to have a look around Chief Gant's office. Just use the connecting hallway to the other building and take the elevator to the top floor. Really? You mean it's okay for us to go in there? I mean, we aren't police officers or anything. Hey, you're right. You can't go in there. It's off limits. Now I see where Detective Gumshoe gets his unique charm. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head to the chief's office. Okay. Whoa, where am I? In the chief's office, silly. At least that's what it said on the door. Check out that pipe organ. That's real, isn't it? Hey, I used to take organ lessons in kindergarten. They used to call me Little Miss Batch. I thought I was a genius until they tried teaching me notes. I never could remember where she was. Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading on his desk. So, righto, have you been swimming lately? No, I haven't. I've been kind of busy lately. I can appreciate that. I've got my hands full too with Mr. Marshall's misconduct and Lana's provective statement. Oh, you mean about the forged evidence? 2 years have passed since that incident. My, how time flies. See that big picture on the wall over there? That's a picture of Lana, Neil, and me. So this is Mr. Marshall's brother, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. We took it to commemorate our work together. Something's not right with this picture. I can't quite seem to put my finger on it, though. Anyways, I like to reminisce all day, but there are matters that need my attention. I'm going to lock up here, so let's go out together. Oh, but this office, it was a crime scene 2 years ago, wasn't it? That case has long since been over. There's no need to investigate it anymore. All the same, we'd still like to have a look around. Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said there's no need to investigate it anymore. Now hurry up and get out. I have a meeting to attend. Looks like we aren't welcomed. It seems that case isn't over with yet, after all. What do you mean? Chief Gant denied our request to search the crime scene. That means there must be a reason he didn't want us looking around in there. You mean like a clue? There's gotta be a way we can get inside the chief's office. No one's here today, not even Miss Starr. Everyone's probably busy looking into what exactly went down in the evidence room. That must be where the detectives are. But we proved in court today that on the day of the crime, someone was murdered in the evidence room at 5:15. Yeah, I thought we were finally making some headway in our case, but instead it looks like we just ended up making Lana look more guilty. Hang in there, Lana. I've got to find all the answers by tomorrow. Mr. Edgeworth isn't here. Maybe he's being questioned by the inquiry committee. He took a real beating in court today. Yeah, with Lana admitting to falsifying evidence 2 years ago, I guess we'll just have to come back later. Hey, pal. Detective Gumshoe, aren't you supposed to be in a meeting? I'm, just taking a breather. My feet hurt. From sitting so long? Actually, from serving everyone coffee. Sounds like Detective Gumshoe's still out of the loop. Say, have either of you seen Mr. Edgeworth? Edgeworth? No, why do you ask? He's under fire from both the police department and the prosecutor's office. It's almost like the battle between you two in court. That sounds serious. It is because of what my sister said. That's basically what it all boils down to. That falsified evidence 2 years ago, now Mr. Edgeworth has the whole world after his blood. Yikes. Let's talk. But why would Edgeworth be blamed? It's not like he knew the evidence was forged. Lana Skye is the guilty party here, isn't she? Regardless, a prosecutor is responsible for the evidence they present in court. Not only that, but as you know, there's been a lot of rumors going around about Mr. Edgeworth. His amazing talent as a prosecutor kept him safe from those who don't like him. But now with this, are there really so many people who hate him? In our world, only those with talent raised to the top. Mr. Edgeworth not only has that, but he's young. There's no better recipe I know of for making enemies. Hey Dick, keep up the good work. Yes, sir. Let's go out for lunch again sometime, I treat. Yes, sir. You gotta take me back to that joint sometimes, okay, Dick? Yes, sir. It seems you don't have any problems with enemies. Yeah, well, I'm careful not to stick out. Anyways, I'm a bit worried about him. Under all the pressure, I'm afraid Mr. Edgeworth just might crack. Actually, I took a look at the files earlier while the coffee was brewing. He seems genuinely concerned for Edgeworth. Well, did you find anything out? The only evidence Dark left behind was during the final attack. His final attack? You mean when he killed Prosecutor Marshall, who was trying to protect some girl? Me. It seems Detective Gumshoe never realized Emma was that girl. That's when he left the most incriminating evidence of all. Well, what was it? Oh, let's see. I think it had something to do with the murder weapon. Oh, I forgot. Look, it's all written somewhere in there, okay? His power of recollection never fails to impress. Maybe we should show him the murder weapon. It might just jog his memory. Joe Dark was 42 at the time of the crime. He was just your run-of-the-mill businessman. A businessman? What made him take serial killing up? One day on his way home from work, he hit someone with his car. With his car? So it was an accident. An accident, yes, but it transformed him into an animal. An animal? He killed a man that witnessed the accident, then he killed a lady who saw him kill them. A kid walked by, so he killed him too. A jogger came upon the scene and killed as well. Finally, he turned himself in. Seems he was a pretty careless animal. Of course, this is all a conjuncture. There wasn't a single shred of evidence. So he turned himself in? Yes, but in the middle of questioning, he fled and murdered his final victim, Prosecutor Marshall. The crime was witnessed by someone too, but luckily Dark was arrested on the spot. It's a good thing that last witness wasn't killed. That last witness, aka Emma. Let me show you the knife, detective. Not that one. About this. Hey, is that... It was tagged... It has a tag attached to it with the label SL9 incident on it. I believe this would be the broken murder weapon you were speaking of. What are you doing with that? Since that case was closed, that knife's been locked away in the locker. On the day Detective Goodman was murdered, this suddenly disappeared from the locker and was found in Mr. Edgeworth's car muffler. That's it. Now I remember what the incriminating piece of evidence was. When he showed me that knife, it all came back to me. Well, what is it, Detective? Quick, before you forget again. This knife, it was Joe Dark's, wasn't it? That's right. We traced it back to the store he bought it from, plus it had his fingerprints on it too. But no one actually witnessed him using it to murder anyone, right? That's where his luck ran out. When you take a good look at this knife, you'll see it's broken. You don't have to take a good look to notice that. Yeah, well, take a guess where the broken off tip of the knife was found. That's what did him in. Where was it? The victim, Neil Marshall, was carrying it inside his own body. It was found deep inside the stab wound. Did it match Dark's knife? You bet. Down to the last fiber. That's pretty conclusive. Well, there you have it. All in a nutshell. That's all I know. Can I ask you one more thing? What is it? If it's money you need, you should ask Chief Gant. It's not money, but it does concern the chief. His office is a crime scene, right? It's where Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered. The chief's out now, and his office is locked. But we'd like to have a look around if it's okay. Well, any detective ID card can unlock the door. What, really? But if I let a civilian in there, I'd be charged with breach of trust. Breach of trust? Simply put, I'd be canned. Oh. Sorry, pal. I don't plan on getting fired because of you. How about this ID card? It was Detective McGoodman's. That won't work either. The data was deleted the day he died. So in other words, Gumshoe is our only chance of getting into the office. I wonder if there's something we can show him that would make him change his mind. I don't know why that would have done it. Now I can be a detective in Blood Trace too. Wow. Is that a new type? I've never seen that bottle before. Add 3 inches to the base height. Base height. Hey, let me see that. Lumen Tall. New and improved growth formula. You mean this can't detect any blood traces? Well, it's not quite the same thing as luminol. So that's why the lady at the counter had that smirk on her face. Hey, that powder used for detecting fingerprints. Yeah, Mr. Edwards gave it to us. Hey, did what? All I have is some flour. Are you okay, detective? Quick, run. Achoo! If it's any help, one time I can take a nap on the bench with a wet paint. Why am I not comforted? What else can I show? I don't really have anything. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me come back. I'll be right back. Just need to find... I wonder if Edgeworth is back yet. There he is. It looks like he's writing something. What are you doing here? He sure was quick to throw that paper on the floor. Tough day in court, huh? I've had to live the past 2 years with rumors flying around. What's another allegation to me? Shut up, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm rooting for you. That's Edgeworth for you. Always trying to hide his real feelings. So what do you want? Unlike some people, I don't have all day. There's no excuse for what I've done. 2 years ago, I used false evidence to obtain a guilty verdict. That's what it all boils down to, and nothing I do can erase that fact. But you didn't know, did you? I mean, the evidence was falsified. The police department and the prosecutor's office share a bond of trust. If that bond is broken, we stand to lose everything. The police department error is my error, my responsibility as the prosecutor in charge. That fact remains the same no matter what excuse I might have. Mr. Edgeworth, I take pride in my work. So tell me, why? Why has it all come to this? Even Edgeworth can't keep this kind of emotion bottled up. Are you up for tomorrow's trial? First, last year's trial, and now this one? It seems all you do is worry about me. To be honest, you're getting on my nerves. But Mr. Edgeworth, you can't just walk out on the trial. Tomorrow is the last day. It's too late to change prosecutors. I'll bet that what my superiors are banking on, I never thought that case would come back to haunt me like this. What do you mean? The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. It's only half as long as most lists? That is odd. After Neil Marshall was murdered, I became a prosecutor for that case. I may not have been part of the investigation, but I knew what I had to do. Use the evidence I was given to prove a suspect guilty. That was really the only thing on my mind at the time. Say, we just saw a picture taken around that time. That picture? Something seemed strange about it. Could you tell us again about what happened that day? The day Detective Goodman was murdered? You were participating in a ceremony over at the station, right? I've never cared for ceremonies, but I had to attend that one. Because you were awarded this? Those receiving rewards can't exactly skip out on the ceremony. I finished up at the office in the morning, then drove over to the police department. You finished up at the office? Yes, just odds and ends. Clerical things. I didn't plan on returning to the office that day. That is, until I was asked to take something back. Take something back? This... Oh, yeah, Chief Gant asked you to hold on to it, didn't he? Yes, it was a piece of evidence in a case that was closed half a year ago. He asked me to bring it back to the story we heard yesterday. So you came back here to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to? That's right. This picture was hanging on the wall of Chief Gant's office. Prosecutor Neil Marshall, he had just started making a name for himself. Looks like this was taken when he received the King of Prosecutors trophy. Speaking of that, there's something that's bothering me. Yes, the trophy Mr. Marshall is holding. It's a little different than yours. Yes, you're right. I remember now. I remember what. Well, that was what the official prosecutor trophy looked like until 2 years ago. There's a story behind its design. A story? Sounds interesting. Would you mind telling us? It's simple, really. Contradictions, that's what the award's based on. This award originated from an ancient Chinese tale. In Chinese, the word contradiction is written with 2 characters. The first means halberd, and the second means shield. Have you heard this story? Me? Oh, sure. Everyone knows that. Why don't you tell me, though, for Emma's sake? Very well. Long ago, in the kingdom of Chao, there was an unarmed merchant. One day, he presented the king with 2 items. The first was a halberd. He claimed could slice through any shield or armor. The second was a shield he claimed could withstand any weapon. Wait a minute. Those claims contradict each other. Very perceptive. But then again, you've heard the story before, right? Anyways, as you mentioned, the very description of these items discredit them both. When the king pointed that out, the merchant was left speechless, and thus the Chinese word for contradiction was born. Oh, I see. So the chipped shield and the broken knife symbolize... Precisely so. They symbolize the merchant's items. The ancient tale ends with the merchant at a loss of words, but it's in our nature to pursue matters to their conclusion, even if the result is something as ugly as this. Wow, thanks, Mr. Edgeworth. I learned something new today. That's funny. If that's so, then why were you only given a shield? You'll have to ask Chief Gant. 2 years ago, he had the halberd part of the trophy abolished. Okay, can I go there now? What if I show this to... Oh. Excuse me. Oh, not you again. Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef? Miss Star, I guess she's out of lunches. You certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kind of like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk. Still, I never thought you'd be digging up that case from 2 years ago. Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day that evidence was... when the case was due for transfer. This can't be an attribute to mere coincidence. Aren't you forgetting something? You know, that little scene I happened to witness? The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with the knife? No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten. Missed our hatred towards Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago. Joe Dark, that's a name I'll never soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. Still, I don't think I was ever more alive than I was then. Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell. You mean because of his brother's death? They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate. Her? Alana Skye. My sister? The best of the best were put on that SL9 case. Of course, they were led by that legendary duo, Lana and Chief Gant. That legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out. You mean with the forging of the evidence? Don't get me wrong, Joe Dark got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear while other items were kept secret. But you don't have any proof anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us saved Goodman were relieved of our duties. Most without even so much as an explanation. Alana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor. Lana always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing quite as simple as it appears. Huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used? Damien Gant and Lana Skye. Gant led the investigation with Lana second in command. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damien Gant, magnetism in particular, was almost unreal. His magnetism? By that I mean the ability to attract evidence. He produced the most incredible evidence in the case he handled. Incredible evidence? You mean, oh yeah. There were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront him though. I take it she's talking about forged evidence. Back then, everyone looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh yes, myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated anything crooked and always watched out for the other detectives. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall? When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. If it wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would ever have recovered from the shock. That's what makes it all the more infuriating. Miss Starr, that's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influences. Chief... That's right. Having solved the SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. There was only one thing left for him to control, and then no one could stand in his way. The prosecutor's office. What? You mean that's why Lana was transferred? If he could control the chief prosecutors, he would control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. It's only logical to conclude there must have been a reason for her change. At last, I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create fine cuisine. I hope you find out to be a better chef than I've been. Okay. He's still here. Oh, you're back. You're still here. I gotta make 150 copies of these files. Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ. You're a DJ as well? If I'm not mistaken, I think he means disc jockey. Oh, that DJ. I gotta admire your perseverance, but my answer's still no. I'm not letting you in the chief's office, period. It'd be my neck on the line. That office is the last crime scene of the SL9 incident. I have to take a look in there. There's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind. Is there? What do I got? Hey, that's it. That's the Kick in the Prosecutors. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, this design's based on an old Chinese parable, right? Oh, yeah, everyone knows that. There's this, dragon. Yeah, that's it, a dragon. He had a thing for a shield, see? That's not exactly the version we heard. No, but this one sounds more exciting. Anyways, it gets kinda gory after that. I'll spare you the details. No use. No. Yeah, he's ready that. We already did this one. Hmm. I'm kind of just going through everything, but I don't know if I even have what I need. About that jar, I think I've seen that before somewhere. Somewhere? Or maybe it's one of those memory people have previous life. This must be the most uninformed detective I've ever met. Something about it makes me feel uneasy. It's like I'm in the chief's office and he's yelling at me. Chief Gant, where could I have seen this before? It's right here in the photo. Let me go check it out, you chump. No? Okay, well, let's, Nope, you don't want to talk about that either? Okay. What about this random jar? No? Okay. No one wants to talk to me, I get it. I get it. And this would really make her talk, I don't think. Detective, here is my attorney badge. You show that to me every time, pal. You're a dumbass. Done the jar, the handprint. He won't help us with. What are you looking at me for like that? Okay, nothing new there. We did all this. Come on, detective, help me here. Who wants to talk to me? Cool. Can I see that paper? I wonder what it was writing before. Come on, Mr. Wright, let's take a look. Are you crazy? Edgeworth's standing right there. Just distract him, I'll check it out. Hey, Edgeworth. Is that Detective Gumshoe out the window there? Uh-oh, no, he's falling to the ground. Hold on. First, let me see what the girl's doing crawling under on my feet. He didn't even look. What? Letter of... If you're having trouble reading it, I'll read it for you. It says letter of resignment. Resignation? Edgeworth, you don't mean... I'm tired, right? I feel as if something inside me has died. But Mr. Edgeworth, none of it is your fault. I know. The path I've walked, you don't need to tell me. And the path I've walked hasn't been a just one. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. And no one else should forgive me either. Uh-oh, I think that he's serious. Mr. Wright, please, you have to do something. This letter of resignation, I wonder if I could use this any. Okay, so if I show this to Mr. Gumshoe. Gumshoe, I got something to show you, buddy. There we go. What's this crumpled up piece of paper? No, Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious. Is he ever not serious? I can't believe they pushed him this far. Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible. When I first met him, I thought he was as cold as ice too. But I know different now. He trusts us detectives to provide him with sound evidence. But we betrayed him. Detective. That's it, I'm gonna help you. But here, take my ID card. We can't do that. If someone found out, they wouldn't let you off the hook with another lost item report. Look at me. It's no secret I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated. What? So at least do this for me, for Mr. Edgeworth's sake. Alright, detective. Thank you. Here goes, Mr. Wright. We're in. If anyone found us now, Detective Gumshoe's a goner. If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out. Gah. Sorry, I thought you were a ghost. I didn't even know you could slap a ghost. Detective Gumshoe, what are you doing here sneaking up on us like that? I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong. So I came too. If you're here, then what's the point of giving us your ID card? Hey, don't do that to my card. Rendered it useless. I hardly ever get a chance to come in here, so I figured I'd have a look around myself. Besides, we're all in this together now. You really want to get fired, don't you? Not if we're lucky. Now come on, let's see what we can find out. I've got a bad feeling about this. This is a safe, isn't it? Safe. That word is ripe with intrigue. Okay, if you say so. It looks like the code needed to be entered in this panel to open it. A 7-digit number. I think I just might know what it is. Do you know what it is? I have a hunch. Oh, I know. You want to try my birthday, isn't it? I have a better idea. Here goes nothing. Bingo. What number did you enter? Whose birthday was it, pal? 77777777. The final ID card number on that record. What? The number of the mysterious executive officer who entered the room that day. You mean 777777, that ID number? I think you're 17 shy this time. This can only mean one thing. The Chief Gant ID number. Say, anyone care to look inside? Yes, I'm trying to. These people are... No, let's not move yet. Let's, Is there any money in there? How much does he have stashed away? Look, it's a shard from a broken cup. This somehow looks familiar. Where have I seen this before? There's something else in here, too. What's this? It looks like a piece of leather cloth. This is a handprint, isn't it? Hey, I saw someone wearing a shirt like that once. You think the chief made up the design? I don't think so. Oh, well, it was just a thought. Is that it? This is all that was in that safe? Apparently so. It's empty now. A piece of cloth with a handprint on it and a broken shard from a cup. They look like pieces of evidence. Yeah, but unless you can prove they have something to do with the case, I'm afraid I can't just let you take them. After all, it's my neck on the line here. Great. Now I have to prove their relevancy to get them. How are two items related to okay, so come on. There's gotta be a way, it's something we can show the detective. Well, the first one is obvious. It's Detective Gumshoe. Could you have another look at this jar? I remember when the three of us put that back together. Oh, those were the days. It kind of was kind of early to be nostalgic. Wasn't this jar a piece of the evidence from that case? That's right. One of the shards had an SL9 incident sticker on it. Doesn't this ring any bells? You know, that fragment we just found? You mean this one that was in the safe? Yes, that one. That was in the safe. Now that you mentioned it, ringing a lot of bells. Let's see if it fits. Here it goes. Go ahead, pal. Show us what a rookie can do. Mr. Wright, here's some glue. If I could put this piece together again, I'll prove to Chief Gant was knowingly hiding evidence. Here goes. There. It fits like a charm. That, of course, means Chief Gant willingly and knowingly hid a piece of evidence, this jar, in his safe. In other words, he concealed a piece of evidence from the SL9 incident. But, hey guys, get a load of this. What is it? This piece you just hatched. It's different from the others. There's a reddish line on here. A reddish line? That's blood. I don't get it. Why would Chief Gant hide this in his safe? Also, let's show him this. Detective Gumshoe, I'd like you to have a look at this. Hey, I know that. That is, what is it called? Do you want to take some fingerprints? That's a great idea, Detective. Alright, let's go to town. Sheesh. What are you doing? Why are you sticking out your hand like that? Go ahead, take my fingerprints. It's not your fingerprints we want to take. Huh? Come on, this isn't the time for a joke. We're talking about that cloth we found in the safe. I knew that. The one with the handprint on it, right? Jeez. Where's your sense of humor? Okay, Mr. Wright, let's check the fingerprints. Sparkle the powder on the cloth. Then again, they've been absorbed into the print below the rest. When you're done... What are you, my mom? I don't have to be told a million times. Alright, let's get this over with. Add some more down here. A few bits over here. Perfect. No, how can this be? What are Emma's fingerprints doing here? Hey, you found a match. Whose fingerprints were they? Huh? Oh, it seems the prints are too old. They aren't clear enough to get a match. Oh, that's too bad. I thought they'd be Dark's prints. Psst. Hey, you, over here. What's going on here? What are the kids' prints doing inside the chief's safe? Don't ask me. Let's just keep this information from Emma for now. Here, maybe you should hold on to this. Okay, well, we got those done. What's this? This is the real deal, isn't it? This armor or these weapons. Sure is, pal. The chief doesn't care for imitations. First the pipe organ, now this armor. You think how many taxpayer dollars must have gone into this room? What? You mean we're paying for this? That's it. I'm not paying 1 cent of my taxes. You don't have any taxes to pay. Sheesh, be careful what you say. Who knows, the chief may be hiding in the armor as we speak. I don't think he'd fit in there. Even if he did, he'd never be able to get back out. Cut it out, you guys don't know how scary that guy can be. This was taken on the day 2 years ago. The day Joe Dark ran out of the questioning room and tried to kill Emma. After receiving his reward trophy, Mr. Marshall took a picture here, then went along with Chief Gant to question Dark. I bet he never knew he'd be dead in just a few hours. Gee, you think? These shelves are mostly empty. Lana must have cleaned them out when she transferred to the prosecutor's office. There's a small picture frame on the left side. Hey, this is when Lana and I went to the theme park. This was Lana's desk. It sure is tidy. Lana always been a medicalist cleaner. There's not even any dust on it. It looks like someone's still keeping it clean. Does Lana ever come back here? No. Chief Gant must still keep it clean in memory of their partnership. They were the stuff legends are made of. Does he keep it in memory of her or in memory of the crime? The chief's organ sure is a sight to behold. Occasionally, we hear him playing it from the criminal affairs department. That's on the 2nd floor, and this is the 15th floor of an entirely different building. When a detective screws up, the chief calls them to his office and makes them listen to the organ for hours. That's so bad. What's so bad about that? Music soothes the soul. After that, the detective can't hear anything for days except for the ringing in their ears. So it's an instrument of punishment, literally. But aren't the chief's ears affected? He never listens to anyone anyways. That's beside the point. Wow, look at the size of the Chief Gant's desk. Speaking of that, when we were here earlier... Oh, it's you two, Chief Gant. He pushed that paper he was reading in the desk. I wonder what he was reading. This looks like a list of evidence. A list of evidence. In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though. Hey, look, it's at the case name. Huh? SL9 incident. I wonder what this is doing here. Hold on, detective. What did you just say? I said, I wonder what... No, about the evidence list. Normally, they're twice as long? That's right. I guess there wasn't a lot of evidence. A half-size list of evidence. The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here? I knew it. The chief must be hiding something about that case. It would appear so. What else am I missing? Wow, look at the size of the desk. We found this inside the drawer. A list of evidence from the SL9. Mr. Edgeworth had the other half of the list. What would this list be doing here? We better take a look into the list. You can see pretty far from 15 stories up. If you were to drop that suit of armor from here, at first the chief wanted to use stained glass for the window. Really, why didn't he? They say he changed his mind because he wouldn't be able to see the view. Oh, stained glass or not, it's a huge window. Look at that giant window. It makes you want to crush through and jump outside. This is the 15th floor. I know, I was just saying. Saying what? Ever since making Detective, I've always dreamed about doing something like that. Note to self, Detective Gumshoe has a lot of dreams. So long as he doesn't go crushing through that window when he gets fired. Don't say that. What am I missing? I feel like I've looked at everything. Let's look at this, I guess. I wonder what this is. It looks like someone drew some kind of sketch here. What is it? Did you find something? I can't make it out. I'd better keep quiet about it now, huh? Oh, no, it's nothing. Why are your eyes moving about like that, Mr. Wright? I better not forget about this picture. That desk on the other side of the room, was that your sister's? Yes, that's where I was waiting for Lana, on the day 2 years ago. Is anyone using it now? No, sir. This is entirely Chief Gant's office now. He's practiced a strict policy of reserving the crime scene. That's a strange reason to leave it there. He leaves it as a warning to everyone else. He wanted us to always be alert. He told us so himself at our New Year's party. Of course, he was pretty intoxicated at the time. I see. So ever since Lana left, no one's ever touched that desk? No one except Chief Gant and the cleaning lady who's in here each morning. Still, 2 years have passed since that incident. There can't possibly be any clues remaining. Can I ask you something? Sure. You only come in here to look around, right? Because it's one of the SL9 crime scenes. I mean, that's your only reason for coming in here, isn't it? Why do you ask? You don't think... Nah. You wouldn't be... No. No, there's no way. Never mind, don't worry about it. Okay, now then, let's look around a bit more. Hey, hold on. Not so fast, buddy, huh? What is it? When someone tells you don't worry about it, it's supposed to start bothering you, pal. You don't just go and let it go. Sorry? This guy is starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so what's bothering you? You two don't think Chief Gant might be a suspect, do you? What? He's right, Mr. Wright. What do we think of him? Chief Gant. So it's finally come to this. What do I think of him? Perhaps it's best I don't divulge my feelings yet. There you go, ignoring me again. Well, was I any help? Of course. Thanks to your ID card, we were able to get some hard evidence. Now, that's not very kind, is it? In other words, if it wasn't for his ID card, he would have been useless. Isn't that right? In the coat. Chief Gant, we didn't think you'd be back so soon. Fortunately, I'm a man who believes in signs. As I was walking to my meeting, I happened to look out a window and saw a stray dog run right into a pool. Just then, I thought of a certain detective. Do you mean me, sir? Now then, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you all to leave. Yes, sir. Sorry. Oh, you in the coat. Me, sir? Drop off your ID on the way out. You won't be needing it anymore. But, sir... Now get out. Yes, sir. We'll be on our way out too, then. Wait, you, the one with the spiky hair. Don't go yet. Me, sir? I'd like a word with you. But, sir, I'm not a licensed scientific investigator. You with the spiky hair, you're free to go. Mr. Wright? Look, pal. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times the chief office is off limits. But no, you just had to go sneaking in there like that, didn't you? I thought you said you didn't care anymore if you were fired. Yeah, but if I knew it'd be like this, I never would have said it. Now that I've seen the evidence Chief Gant was hiding in his office, I think I'm finally starting to get the picture. But why has she kept eerily silent about it all this time? Anyways, you listen to me. I'm gonna try and smooth things out over with the chief again. Later. After that, I heard from Emma. She said the police wanted to ask her a few questions, so she'll be busy for the rest of the day. I see. So the chief asked Emma to come in for questioning. It's no use thinking about it. Tomorrow's the final day in the court. I'm committed to doing everything I can to defend you, which is why I'm here. But I've already told you all I can. What you've told me over these past couple of days is absolutely nothing. Not a single useful thing. Really? I believe I did mention something quite important. Something I told you right at the beginning. I said that I was the one who stabbed Detective Goodman. You know, I think I finally figured it out. I know who it is that's lurking behind your words. Mia did a good job mentoring you. I'm rather jealous. It seems Edgeworth was right. Edgeworth? Once you're convinced you know something, no one can pursue you otherwise. Thick-headed is the term he used, I believe. Now's my chance to get her to tell me the rest of the story. Can I? Showing evidence isn't... No. I mean, I didn't want to show you that. Just kidding. That was a joke. Haha, got me. Can I just talk to her then? Keeping quiet. I have to admit, I was more than a little perplexed at first. You insisted you did it, yet there was no incriminating evidence. That's when it hit me. It's not that you're unwilling to tell the truth, it's that you're incapable of doing so because of a certain individual. What an intriguing notion. A certain individual, you say? So you think I'm protecting this person? Protecting? No, I think you're afraid of is more like it. If I'm not mistaken, the person in question may have pursued you to stay silent. For argument's sake, Mr. Wright, who, may I ask, is the person you're speaking of? The one I am supposedly so frightened of. What is this person's name? Well, Miss Skye? Mr. Wright, you are addressing the chief prosecutor. Do not forget your place. I take it she's still not ready to spill the beans. My apologies. Could you please tell me a bit more about what you think you know? We were partners until 2 years ago. I respect him as a detective. Assuming he is respectable, then tell me something. Why would he try to hide his crimes? His crimes? Both you and Edgeworth will be brought before a board of inquiry for what you did, specifically hiding and forging evidence. Of course, these are serious offenses. Why is it, though, that Chief Gant's name was never mentioned? Chief Gant? Edgeworth didn't know the truth behind the forgery. The only party who could have possibly tampered with the evidence was me. I had access because I was second in command of the investigation. Yes, you, but also one other, Damien Gant. If you intend to accuse Chief Gant, you'll need more than just words. Show me proof that Chief Gant falsifies evidence in Nakash. Well, we have 2 pieces right here. You want proof of Chief's wrongdoing? Here it is. That evidence proves someone is doing something wrong, all right? But it's not the Chief. Who would that be? Why, it's you, of course. Me? Yes. You seriously believe what you're saying, don't you? Now that's scary. You seem to have making a criminal in you. What's with your all falsifications, accusations? Here to spend night in the cell next to me? If you ask me, you're the scary one. Okay, let's try this again. Maybe it was the list of evidence. That's my bad. It's the list of evidence. I've just found this in a safe in the chief's office. This is a jar piece and this is a piece of cloth. You know what these are? They are pieces of evidence from the SL9 incident. The person concealing the evidence was none other than Chief Gant himself. Now tell me, why are you taking the blame for him? Touché, Mr. Wright. It's as you surmise, I cannot disobey the Chief's order, even if it means being found guilty of murder. Why not? Come now, Mr. Wright, you can't possibly expect me to be able to tell you that. 3 days ago, I had no choice but to cooperate. In the murder of Detective Goodman? Or perhaps I should say, follow orders. Yes, that's more accurate than cooperate. Although I can't tell you the details, I can say that I was given an order that day. I need to dispose of a body, Bruce Goodman body. You'll find it inside the trunk of Miles Edgeworth's car. Just as I suspected, despite what everyone believes, you were not the one who murdered Detective Goodman. Correct. I was trying to take the body out of Edgeworth's car. The trunk lock was broken, and I discovered that murder weapon while inspecting the body. The murder weapon? You mean Edgeworth's knife? No. When I found the body, there was a knife stuck in it. The knife from the SL9 incident with serial killer Joe Darkin's knife. I couldn't just leave the knife in him, so I took it out and stabbed him with another knife. That would be Edgeworth's knife. That's right. Even though he was already dead, my hands were shaking at the thought of stabbing him. That's why I ended up cutting my hand. And that is the reason for the bandage on your right hand. Yes, it seems that I got blood on the victim's shoe as well. And then she saw me just as I plunged the knife in. Miss Starr, huh? Why did you need to hide Dark's knife so badly? It took a lot of work to finally close the Dark case 2 years ago. It was over with. I didn't ever want to be open. I didn't ever want it to be open again. My intent was to prevent that by whatever means possible. So you hid Dark's knife. The weapon used to stab the detective was evidence in the Joe Dark case. If word got out, which it would, the reporters would have a field day with it. So you wrapped the knife in your scarf and hid it in Edward's exhaust pipe? Right. Then I called my sister to tell her what happened and to ask her to hide the knife. What was inside my muffler? You ask, Emma? I didn't want anyone on the force to know about this. That would explain why Emma was so confused about Lana's innocence. Speaking of phone calls, I had a bad feeling about one of them that day. A bad feeling? The truth is, after I received those orders from Chief Gant, the first thing I did was make a phone call. A phone call to Patrolman Jake Marshall. Marshall? Why on earth would you call him? The lead investigator for the SL9 incident had been murdered. I wanted that fact to be kept hidden, and I needed help. He was the only other person I could trust. Or at least I thought I could trust him at the time. However, it seems that after I spoke to him, he went off on an escape pod of his own. Oh, you mean not wanting the case to die, he decided to take things into his own hands. He disguised himself as Detective Goodman and tried to steal the evidence. He had already stolen the ID card, but it seems he still hadn't made up his mind to break into the evidence room. After my phone call, any remaining doubt he had must have disappeared. So your phone call caused the incident in the evidence room. I'm afraid that's all I can tell you, but Lana, you've earned my respect, Mr. Wright, both as a defense attorney and an investigator. Now please, don't pursue this any further in court tomorrow. Tomorrow's trial, there's only one way to drive off Lana's demons. I've got to get to the bottom of everything. Detective Goodman's real murderer. And what went down in the chief's office 2 years ago. Alright, we're going to end the stream here, and we're going to jump into this tomorrow and hopefully finish up this case. I think this is the last day, so it has to be the end of this case. So we'll finish this tomorrow, and then I'll do something else the next day. Take a break from Phoenix Wright, but until